U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Israel today for meetings with officials there as he tries to prevent the war in Gaza from escalating into a wider conflict. Earlier this morning, Blinken met with Israeli President Isaac Herzog and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. As Israel's military says that it is expanding ground operations in Gaza's southern city of Khan Yunis. The IDF says that it killed around 40 Hamas militants over the past day and claims to have located a significant number of tunnel shafts. Our Charlie D'Agata is following the latest for us from Israel.
The Secretary of State's mission here has several stated objectives: how to stop the war from spreading, the push to minimize civilian casualties in Gaza, and to figure out the future of the territory. But today, there are challenges on all fronts. Israeli military video is said to show the heavy gun battles raging inside Gaza. Troops using tanks as cover to advance forward along cratered roads, finding more tunnels in what the IDF describes as a hunt for Hamas holdouts. Footage released today shows soldiers sprinting between bombed-out buildings, taking up positions in stairwells, with the Israeli defense spokesman warning the fighting will continue through 2024. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Israeli President Isaac Herzog this morning, in part to discuss what comes next.
We greatly value the President's leadership in these incredibly challenging times.
He also sat down with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ahead of a scheduled meeting with the Israeli War Cabinet. But his visit comes amid a dramatic escalation in a widening war beyond Gaza, with Foreign Minister Israel Katz claiming responsibility for yesterday's drone strike that killed senior Hezbollah commander Wissam Tawil and a deputy in southern Lebanon. Hezbollah has already threatened retaliation, inflaming tensions in the conflict already underway along Israel's northern border with Lebanon. Hezbollah said it launched a drone attack on Israel's northern command center in response. The Israeli military confirmed a hostile aircraft had come down at one of its bases, but no injuries or damage reported. Anne-Marie?
Charlie, thank you. So for more on Secretary Blinken's Middle East trip, I want to bring in CBS News reporter Olivia Gazis. So, Olivia, let's start with, what was on the agenda? What were the main topics discussed?
Well, sure. So Blinken's meetings are obviously covering the gamut of challenges related to the Gaza conflict, but key among them right now is keeping up the pressure and even augmenting pressure on the Israelis to scale back this massive civilian toll. Palestinian health authorities said today that 1 in 100 people in Gaza has been killed since October 7th. So he's stressing that, along with the need to boost humanitarian aid into Gaza, which is still very meager and, according to some critics here, even being subjected to an unnecessarily cumbersome inspection requirement by Israeli authorities. Perhaps most urgently, as you heard Charlie there, he's stressing the need to contain this conflict to Gaza, especially as the specter of drawing in Hezbollah and others has increased, with Israel taking these numerous targeted strikes in Lebanon and elsewhere.
So, President Biden has been certainly facing pressure from progressives and others to be tougher on Israel. On the flip side, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is under pressure from his right-wing coalition, his partners in the parliament, to remain vigilant. How, and we'll remind everyone that the president, President Biden, is also facing an election. So how do these pressures play into this situation?
Absolutely. I mean, domestic political pressures are complicating matters on both sides, to be sure. And I think that's why you've seen these increasingly sharp and increasingly public language from this administration about where it disagrees with the tactics or the rhetoric coming out of Israel. The State Department recently condemned publicly remarks from far-right Israeli politicians that they made about the displacement of Palestinians from Gaza. We know that the phone calls that have taken place between President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu have had some increasingly acrimonious moments. They, of course, have a relationship going back decades, and that's at least why you've seen that there's been this regular cadence of phone calls. But with the Israelis appearing to be unresponsive to these consistent American asks about the civilian toll, about the future of governance in Gaza, it's possible that you'll see a change of government, as you alluded to, before we actually see a more closely aligned way forward here.
Really interesting stuff. Olivia Gazis, thank you.
Thank you.